Well, welcome. Today we have an old friend. How many years has it been now?
They were friends, or well, I've been sheriff. I've been my 15th year, Al. So if
Wow.
that answers your question,
Why don't we start with an introduction?
sure. Worcester County Sheriff Lou Evangelidis, been in the studio with you many a times, and always good to be back.
It's amazing, 15 years.
You're telling me we were both puppies when I started, apparently, because look at us now. We're almost getting to that age. People start asking us when we're going to retire,
Well, I
right?
remember when you first came on and you were running for sheriff, one of the big things you promised is that you were going to break some of the old, what I call bad habits,
Hmm.
of asking your employees to donate to your
Right, of
fund and
course.
still going?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I'm really proud, if nothing else, of changing a culture that existed for 50 years. So, when I ran for sheriff, I think anybody will tell you the place had a reputation, and it wasn't something that I would be proud of. It was known to be a place where everybody had to know somebody to get hired. Everybody had to play the game to get promoted, which meant work on political campaigns, make contributions, political contributions to the sheriff. And if you didn't play those games and you didn't know somebody, you had no chance there. And I thought, couldn't think of a worse environment for professionalism than a place that was all patronage and politics. So when I ran for the job 15 years ago now, I promised the people, if you put your faith in me, we'd change that culture once and for good. And we've stuck to our guns. And the bottom line is, no campaign contributions have ever been accepted from an employee there or a spouse. They're not allowed. Um, we've changed. We took the name of the vehicle off, the sheriff's name off all the vehicles that used to drive around with a little advertisement. We raised the hiring standards. We changed the promotional process. We've done everything to allow good people to get hired. So we don't take recommendation letters anymore, that kind of
No
nonsense.
hooks.
Nope, you got to apply on your own. We have a rigorous standard. We bring you in. If you perform well, you'll flourish. And I tell the folks who come into my new academy, I do tell them this, and we have one starting next week. And I tell them, if you do your job, there's a chance you'll be sitting in my office not in within 5 years, not to be a sergeant, to be a lieutenant. We move people along who do the work, and it's as simple as this, Al. You bring a great work ethic, you bring a great attitude. And I tell them, if you want to know who to emulate, look at the people we've promoted, which are basically all of the people now over this time. So I'm really proud of that. We changed the culture, we stuck to our guns, and it's a professional department. And what benefits me is that other people who have run for sheriff and prior Worcester County sheriffs, in all candor, have said to me, I wish I could have done what you did, but I couldn't see how you could win without taking contributions from staff and getting them to work on your campaigns and all that. And I thought, well, that may have been true, but I saw a path another way. I saw the path was to promise to clean up the mess. And the people, God bless Worcester County for putting their faith in me to do just that. So I'd say in the years we've been there, Al, I'm really proud of that. So the answer to your question is yes, we have changed none of that. The only thing we've changed slightly um, is the hiring standard, because before we mandated that you have a college degree and or you'd served your country. The problem was post COVID, we couldn't get enough recruits. And you ask any local police department, they'll tell you the same thing, including the state police. So we had to transform our hiring standards a little bit to meet basically the world we were living in, and that meant that we had to consider some life experiences to make sure that we had enough people. Because the biggest issue we have is a sheriff, and I think our local police chiefs will say the same thing. Chief Cicino here, right here in Milford, a good friend, and that is overtime is a problem. We have to staff. We have to mandate overtime. I do not want to mandate overtime for my staff. I think it's a horrible thing. You have weekend plans, you leave it on Friday, and you get forced to do overtime. Horrible. And when you're short staffed, that's what you have to do. By law, we're required to do it. So I've had to make sure that we have academies with enough people. This one, we have 16 recruits starting. I don't know how many will graduate. We usually have an attrition rate of between, say, 10 and 20% during the academy. So if we have 20, we might lose two. We also have a psychological profile that we do before we offer someone a spot in the academy. Usually lose a few people there. So it's a hard world. We have to fill the shifts. We have to find great people. I think things are moving in the other direction. I think we're starting to see more applicants now, bigger classes, which I'm really happy about. But short of that, I can promise you nothing else has changed. It's sticking to our guns. I don't accept contributions. I will promote people based on merit. I stay out of the hiring process. Matter of fact, Al, I'll tell you how I work. Every single person who gets hired by us sits in my office. Everyone comes in. And the purpose of that meeting is to welcome them to the Worcester County Sheriff's Office. Why, and I always ask them, why did you apply here of all the jobs in the world? What do you want to accomplish here? What's your goal? But the first thing I say to them is congratulations. And they have no idea why. You congratulate somebody before you really even know them. And I can tell them this. I say, I'm congratulating you because I know you walked through this door, not because you're who you know, because who you are. And I mean that, that's the truth. Because I may know a couple people who walk in, but they ain't walking in unless they got through the interview process
Right.
and they were recommended to me. I don't tell us to hire anybody. I might say, hey, here's a candidate, take a look at them. But they have to go through the rigorous interview process. And when they finally get recommended to come through my office to meet me, I guarantee you they did it on their own. And that's why I say congratulations. And some people got surprised by that, but that's why I say it.
Are you able to recruit enough people to fully staff the sheriff's department?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the hardest part during this time, well, we had a world change during COVID and post-COVID, and I'll be candid with you. A lot of people don't want to work. They want to work remote. They don't want to come to the office every day. We don't offer that.
I was going to say, how do you work remote in the sheriff's jail?
We can't. So matter of fact, I'm proud to say that during the depths of COVID, when a lot of people were home, there was nobody at the Worcester County Sheriff's Department. We did do some of our education and our social workers, give them some remote possibilities on and off, a week on, a week off, that kind of thing. But the correctional staff, myself, my command staff, everybody worked every day. We were in that office, and it was because we have to do that. That's what we have to do. I don't deserve any extra credit for that. It's just when you're in law enforcement, as a governor would call you, essential personnel. When you're home and you hear people say, oh, there's a snowstorm today and non-essential personnel should stay home. Well, that isn't us.
You don't get that.
We come to work. So anyway, we're doing pretty good. I'd say our numbers have rebounded during the depths of that, and we're getting some great people. And the same for our civilian staff. We have an outside contractor for medical, which is millions of dollars in contracts, but I took that away from the sheriff's department because all I heard when I got there was medical was a nightmare. We, meaning me, the superintendent, the deputy superintendents, were running a medical department. They have no expertise in that. You should have a medical company run your medical department. So we interviewed and we privatized it, and it's been extremely successful. Not only did we lower costs, we limited liability, and we improved the performance. I mean, we actually got professional nurses, which we had some before, but we professionalized the staff. We had limited liability, which is really important, but even more importantly, the care went up. For example, we used to send out x-rays, MRIs, all that stuff we do in-house now. But I did that by contracting with someone. And that's a hard thing. I mean, nobody wants to, have a situation where you have to lay off your nurses, because everyone, I found nurses to be very compassionate and for the most part loving people. But I had to make some tough decisions. So everybody was given an opportunity to reapply, and many were rehired. But I had to cut down the staffing. It gotten out of control. It wasn't the highest quality, and it had to be done. So another hard decision, but I was elected to make hard decisions, not to go in and business as usual.
Did you surprise people when you gave up that power?
Sure, and I angered some people, but I said I wasn't there to make friends, never have been. I know why I'm there. The only friends I want are people like you and the people out there in Worcester County who say at the end of the day, you're doing a good job. You're what we asked you to do when you went there. You're compassionate about inmates because you want to help them turn their lives around, but you're tough on crime as a former prosecutor, and you're running a professional operation that cares about the public safety of Worcester County, not the bullshit patronage politics. I mean, that's enough of that. So I can proudly sit here today and tell you that what we've accomplished, I think, has been extraordinary. And it's because of the team I have around me, Al. It's not me doing it all. It's surrounding myself with people that do it all. And I get the benefit of going to this community and running into people every day that tell me, hey, I served time in your place and I turned my life around. And
But Lou,
Yeah.
I'll disagree with you because the environment starts at the top. The old system of who's my buddy or how much can I afford to contribute or how much time can I give you, you can't be saying you want to enforce the law and at the other hand pulling in unlawful things. So
yeah,
it's all credit to your team, but it's the environment that you set up.
Well, I appreciate it, and I do take some credit for that because I did bring in these people, and I do ask them to hold everybody accountable. But it really is. I mean, I can have the vision, I can have the ideas. We work on some high level stuff, but at the end of the day to day work, rehabilitating inmates, keeping them off the street, keeping the officers safe, dealing with medical issues, dealing with drug treatment and rehabilitation. That's the day-to-day work that the staff does, and they're incredible.
How has the public view of law enforcement changed over the last couple of years?
I don't think it has changed as much as some in the media would like you to think it's changed. I mean, there was a time when people, were defund the police and we got to eliminate sheriffs, police officers. What I'm talking. Just talk about the defund movement, and I think what I've interpreted it only one way. People support law enforcement. When they need law enforcement, they call. You call 911 when you're in trouble and you're not wondering or feeling like you shouldn't do it. You're like, I need help, and guess who shows up? Right? Police, fire, other first responders, sometimes folks from the sheriff department. So I think the majority of people have always supported that. I think what they have a right to ask for is we want to make sure we have good policing, quality policing, community policing. I totally agree with that. So I don't think the view has changed. I think there's been a narrative to try to divide us, which I'm very tired of. I think there's a massive movement in this country to divide America, to make us hate each other. It works through social media. It works through our politics. I think it's being driven by somebody outside forces that are trying to divide Americans. We are a great nation with great people. We've always respected differences of opinion, but now we're supposed to hate each other who have that other opinion. I think those are the fringes of people, Al. I think if you ask the average person who's living at home, raising a family, maybe, a different phase in life, talking to their neighbors, regardless of their party, they probably share the same values, the same interests in having good government, a safe neighborhood, good schools, have access to good employment, provide for their families. That's not a partisan issue. But some people want us to be divided and be partisan. So I don't see that. I think law enforcement is a perfect example from your question that I think the majority of people have always supported law enforcement, and they know when they need them. And quite frankly, sometimes where law enforcement is needed the most are the communities that outsiders have said defund. When you actually ask the people in the community, they want policing. They are victims of serious crimes, and they want protection. They just want to make sure it's good policing. And I'll give you an example. I'm going a little off the field here,
okay.
but one of the things people talk about is, well, when they need an officer, you should send in a social worker. Okay? Now, there may be needs for social workers in law enforcement, and there may be times, but the idea of sending in a social worker to a domestic dispute when there's serious potential violence there, I don't think that's a smart approach. But we could bring in social workers to back up the police departments to maybe de-escalate. I'm all for that. But sometimes people look for the simple, nonsensical solution, which is defund police. We don't need law enforcement. Take away their firearms. All this craziness. I don't think a lot's changed in people's perceptions of that.
I think you're on track because our town meeting, representative town meeting, I've seen it shut down once. Mm-hmm. That was a number of years ago when a town meeting member got up and we were doing our budgets, and he made a motion to remove the police budget and defund it. 250 people make a lot of background noise. Mm-hmm. You could have heard crickets. And what was most gratifying to me is he couldn't get a second. Mm-hmm. Out of 200 plus people, not one of them would second the motion of defunding the Milford Police.
Right.
That goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
We've had 2 demonstrations in Milford about the police. One, we stood out in the rain just to say thank you. Mm-hmm. They've both been positive.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way to building the confidence of not just the people,
right,
but the officers too.
Well, I think it's about community policing, I mean, remember one thing. Officers take that duty and that oath, and it's to serve and protect. And, it's up to the town and the chief and the department heads to enforce that policy. But I think they do, especially in Milford, for example. Serve and protect this community. That's what you're here to do. Serve this community first. serve it as a community police officer. It's a great honor and a privilege to protect the people of this town. And I think they do overall a great job doing it. And I think the people respect it. And we all know we've been through some tough, crimes and situations here that have happened in Milford over the years, like it happens in every community. And I think overall the police have handled things very well, and the community appreciates that.
We're reading all about the effects of sanctuary cities.
Hmm.
I don't understand what that means. As a law enforcement person, you're swearing to uphold the law.
Hmm.
So when they say we won't work with ICE, we won't work with the federal government, what does that mean?
Well, I found this is a very complicated question because, there's laws in this country, federal laws. I'll give you an example. You don't, as a state, decide, in the 1950s and 60s that you were, Southern state, for example, segregationist, not allowing people of color or black people to vote, to register to vote. Well, the federal government had to come in because that was the law of the land. And they made sure that the laws were enforced and that people had access to the polls. And I'm so grateful for that. But the law of the land says you're not allowed to come into this country illegally, especially committing crimes. And there are consequences for that activity. And me as sheriff, I'm proud to work with my partners in law enforcement. And I mean, that's sometimes my local police. I work with gang intelligence information at the jail. We get a lot of information out of the jail. My state police and my federal officers. And if I have someone who's in my facility, I want to make sure that the federal databases are checked to see if they're here illegally. And if they are, now they're committed a crime and they're in my facility. I think it's my obligation as a sheriff, as a constitutional officer of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to have taken that oath, to notify my federal partners that if they're interested, I don't make the decision to turn them over to ICE, to report them. I give them information and they get back to me. And if they say to me over the years, this person is a person of interest, which they mean by that, we believe poses a public safety risk, then they make the decision to take that person into custody upon release, which has been pretty easy to accomplish. The problem is, as a Massachusetts state, and this gets to the question, sanctuary, well, I mean, if it walks like a duck and squawks like a duck and looks like a duck, you'd say it's a duck. Well, Massachusetts walks and talks and squawks a lot like a sanctuary state, but they claim we're not one. So I don't know. I mean, for example, if you're here, I have someone in my facility today for sure. I'll give you an example. Someone this year, assault with a dangerous weapon and attempted murder of his girlfriend. He was here illegally. He tried to kill her with his car. He was in my facility. Judge put a $2,500 bail on him. He asked for a bail review, went to the court, posted bail, and never came back. Walked out of the courthouse. ICE had to go get him. Months later, they found him. Is that sound like a sanctuary state to you? The guy can walk out the door of a courthouse, but they had, unfortunately, and this is where it gets complicated, but legal, is Attorney General Maura Healey sued the Commonwealth, and the result was the Supreme Judicial Court said in a Lund decision that you don't have the ability to hold anybody beyond their hold, and you're mandated to release them. Now, a lot of states have other provisions that allow you to do it, but the SJC said until the parties that be, in other words, the legislature or the governor, impose the appropriate authority, you got to let them go. So someone goes to a judge and the judge put $2,500 bill. That's it. He just lets them walk out the door. Now, I think we should have legislation, which I've tried very hard to get passed, or cooperation where we would say you get a window of time, 24 hours to check with the federal authorities before you release them. Not in Massachusetts. Nobody's interested in that. So they walk out. So that's the facts of the state we live in. Call it what you want.
And yet, a few weeks ago, we had somebody murdered on a subway train, innocent, by somebody who had been, I think, arrested 14 or 15 times.
Right.
And you sit there and say, to me, it's your obligation to let ICE know.
Well, I don't know if we're talking about the same case, if that person was illegal. I know they had, the one we're talking about, I think it was in North Carolina,
Yeah.
had severe mental health issues. So that kind of opens to me, that's a different conversation than, for example, the woman that got killed down in Georgia, I think it was. She was murdered by an illegal, who was here committing crimes and murdered her. and Lincoln Riley. Remember that case, Lincoln Riley? So, I mean, there was a clear case of someone who was in the country illegally, committing crimes, and an American, a poor innocent victim, got killed. This guy, I believe, I don't know, I should know, but I don't know
I
if he
think
was
he
here
was
illegally.
illegal.
He might have been, but he definitely was arrested multiple times, had significant mental health issues, and you see this poor innocent woman being brutally murdered in public, by the way. It just breaks your heart. So it's a very complicated issue, but I stay in my lane, Al. My lane is I deal with people who have been taken into custody for either conviction criminals or charged with criminal activity. And if their status is unknown, I want to get that status to the people who can determine it. And then if they decide this person is of interest, now I can tell you in my experience, 15 years, I have not seen ICE. They didn't have the resources, particularly until recently. I don't know what they're going to have, but up until recently, they weren't out doing anything other than just trying to figure out who was posed a public safety risk and then try to take them into custody. That's what I've observed as sheriff, my working relationship. I don't go on the streets with ICE and
Right.
try to round people up or find. No, they don't ask us to do that. But what we do is we work with them when we have people in our custody and care who are illegally here. They've committed crimes, and I found overall ICE comes to get the serious offenders. That's who they have the resources to deal with. And I think most people that voted for the Worcester County Sheriff would expect I would do nothing less than that.
I would hope so.
Me too.
But it's like, Lou, I invite you into my home for dinner. You start breaking my furniture. I think I got a right to throw you out.
I would hope so.
And if somebody says there's reasons, the woman from the Ukraine who came to the U.S.
Right.
for a safer life,
That's right.
explain to her of the rights of the person who stabbed her.
Well, I'm going to tell you my personal story on this because I really hope, and if anytime people want to take something out of context and make an issue out of it, they'll do it. I mean, I'm so tired of the old, cut and paste or, take something out of context. So let's have a conversation, a real one about context of where we are here, not some snippet, not some 10-second or 5-second snippet. Let's try have a conversation. I've been to El Salvador on a church mission. I've been to Guatemala with my family. And I have been throughout Latin America many times, including Mexico several times. Do I blame people in those countries who want to come to America for a better life? I don't blame
No.
these folks for wanting to come here because I would too. I mean, what I saw in the gangs that were in El Salvador, which has been cleaned up dramatically by their president, by the way. Crime has dropped dramatically. He has taken in the MS-13 and the Calle, which is the 18th Street gang, taken them into custody, cleaned up the country, and has made remarkable. As a matter of fact, it's been taken off the dangerous list for U.S. travel abroad. El Salvador is remarkably well, but I was there when it was incredibly dangerous. Guatemala, same thing. As we all know, Honduras and parts of Mexico. So my answer to my analysis is this. I don't blame people for saying, I want to go to America, the greatest nation that's ever offered hope to people in this world. And by the way, these are predominantly people of color who some people on the left want to tell us we're the most awful nation, the most racist nation. But all I saw for the last 4 years was hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people of color coming through this nation. And for some reason, we're supposed to believe they're coming to some awful racist nation. Now, does America have a history of problems? Sure. Again, let's have a real conversation. Of course we have. But let's look at the big picture. Where else can you go for opportunities for you and your family and your future and to work hard and succeed?
But if it was that terrible, why would they come?
Well, that's my point. But I'll tell you what my problem is. This is the real problem. Let's have a real conversation. I have a problem with the policymakers who said, we're going to have an open border. We're going to let tens of millions of people in, unfettered, come to America. That's my problem. And I think the American people had a problem with that if you saw the election results in 2024. Now let's go further. I have a problem with a governor who I never heard her mention once when she was running for governor. She was going to put an open welcome mat out for anybody who wants to come to America. Come to Massachusetts. We're going to pay for your lodging. We're going to put you up in hotels. We're going to pay $60 a day for your food, which is a lot more than I pay for my food. We're going to put you up with health care, education. Come to Massachusetts. I would come here too. Who wouldn't? But why? When did we have a president and a governor who ran on open borders, come to Massachusetts, and the taxpayers are going to pay for everything? $4 billion. I'm mystified by why people who are upset at the current climate don't point the fingers at the people that did this to you.
But see, the thing that really bothers me above what you're saying is you're giving all these benefits, and then there's the 1% who abuse it by being criminals.
Mm-hmm.
I have some sympathy for people who came. My grandfather came to this country, to Milford in '39. He did it legally,
Yep.
but he came for one reason,
Yep.
to make a better life for his family.
As my grandmother,
He put his head down, he worked, he paid his taxes. Now, I have some sympathy for people who do that. But the people who come in and commit crimes, due process to me is how quick can I put them on a plane out the door? I mean, I have no sympathy at all.
As I said, nobody cared about due process coming in, but you have to offer due process going out. So, like I said to you, I mean this. Like, don't think it's out of context. I empathize with people. I don't blame them for wanting to come here for a better life, but there has to be an orderly process so we don't get in a situation where you have tens of thousands, if not more. And I will not sit here for a minute and tell you that the majority of people coming to this country who come from, these foreign countries are coming here for illegal activities. I don't believe that. I think many, if not the majority, are coming for a better life. But the process was so flawed, and it did allow so many dangerous people into this country, and that's the mess that needs to be cleaned up.
And Lou, 1 to 2% of the people coming in are going to be criminals.
I don't know what the number is.
But it's that kind of,
Mm-hmm.
same as 1 to 2% of the Americans
Sure.
living here are criminals.
Yeah.
So the surprise that if you let 10 million people in, you do the numbers,
Right.
that's a lot of bad people.
There sure is.
And we still don't know how many are foreign agents.
We don't.
But see, it just gets me that we need a certain percentage of these people to work jobs that
That's
Americans
correct.
aren't taking.
We do. And I'm a big believer in giving people a path to citizenship because we need people that want to come to this country, frankly, and do a lot of work that a lot of people are here don't want to do. I respect that work ethic. I believe in that you're giving people opportunity, but there's got to be an orderly process. And what happened during the last 4 years, it was so out of control. It was so outrageous. There was no enforcement. I'll tell you a story because I have an experience in this. I went to the border on a few occasions. One time I went to El Paso. One time I went to McAllen. I went to McAllen during the Obama administration. I think it was 2015, 2014. I went to McAllen, Texas. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but it was big news at the time. There were thousands of people at the border they were saying like in these concentration camps, these, children and families and thousands of people. And people were talking about, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And this is, inhumane and all this. And it ultimately, the problem ended up kind of going away, in the sense that the people in the border that were being detained were all kind of ultimately released and thing. So I went down there just by pure luck. It was very close to the peak of that. And I got tour of the border of the Rio Grande on boats, planes. I got to see, I went to these facilities. I was working with local sheriffs. I was working with state police. The Texas State Police said, we'll secure the border if the feds won't do it. They were working on security. It was costing them a fortune, but they proved you could do it, as is being proved now. But what I found absolutely mind-boggling, and this is the process people should know, this was our process, was back then, and I'm sure it was during the last 4 years. I went into the processing center, and I had a guy on the QT he didn't feel comfortable talking to me because he knew he was being watched, but he wanted me as a sheriff to know what's happening. So he said, this is the floor, this is how we process. There was a room, big room, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. And then there was a floor with people with desks and people were being processed. So I'm just watching. And I said, now how does this work? He goes, well, they come in and people are turning themselves in. They used to run away from enforcement. Then they started just turning themselves in. Here I am, take me to the center. He goes, so we take them to the center and we process them. And I said, how do you do it? He goes, we take their information. And he said to me something I'll never forget too. He goes, by the way, any man who comes in, if you're an adult male without children, you got to be sent back unless you're a minor. He goes, Every single one of them tells us they're 16 years
So,
old.
half a year
And I said,
before.
really? And what do you do with it? There's nothing. We can't do anything. We have to accept it. But more importantly, he said, the people that come in, they get processed, whether they're men, women, kids, whatever. He goes, they get a form. It's called a permiso form. That's what he told me. And he goes, this gives you permission to enter the country. And I said, where do they go after that? He goes, they walk out this door and they go anywhere they want. And I said, well, what's their obligation? He goes, they are supposed to turn themselves in to the local immigration officials in wherever they go, and they're supposed to have a hearing set up within 60 to 90 days, I think he told me. I said, well, what percentage of people do that? He goes, less than one. So 99% of people come in, get a form, go, and disappear, and you never see or hear from them again. So that's the kind of broken system we have. I believe we need border security. I believe we need an enhanced right to citizenship path. We need better processing for this, faster, better. We need plenty of people in this country, especially people who bring brain power, people that bring labor. We need to do it. And I think we have to enforce the existing laws. And that means on employers too. Hold people accountable. The American people deserve better. In my opinion, both parties created this. It's a broken system. Both parties have tried to use it to their benefit. And I think it's time we just fix it.
Well, I remember when I was running a plant in San Diego, it hit home when I had to sign my name that I was responsible for all the people I hired
Yeah,
to make sure they were legal.
that's right.
It made me think twice when we were looking through applications.
Mhm.
I had nothing against anybody, but I didn't want to go get free room and board on the state.
That's right. No, I mean, but a lot of times they weren't enforcing those laws. So cheap labor was just accepted as part of the business plan and everybody went along with it. And I'm just saying is everybody has a stake in this, but everybody has a responsibility in it. And I don't think we've ever offered a comprehensive plan with border security, with enhanced immigration system and enforcement of the laws. And that meant against employers and individuals. So right now, I think we're unfortunately responding to what has become a bit of a crisis created by a pretty crappy system, especially over the last 4+ years.
But taking the politics out of it,
Mhm.
what happened? All of a sudden, the reports from the border are one person crossing, no people crossing. What made the big difference?
Well, that was one of the things I felt was disingenuous with Joe Biden. And I hate to go partisan, but it's true. They said Donald Trump was blocking the border security bill because he wanted to play politics. And the Republicans were saying, but you have the executive ability as the president just to stop it immediately. And that was the truth because it turned out as soon as Trump came in, executive orders, it's all-time record low crossing. So the point is, it became a political football. The reality is the president of the United States has the ability to secure the border, and we're seeing that. So let's stop playing games with that, and let's talk about what the American people want. I don't think the American people wanted to be doing what we're doing now. I don't think everybody wanted this, but it was a situation that existed, and I think we have to do something, especially when it comes to criminal behavior and criminal activity. Nobody wants this, and we have to get these people who are here, get them into custody and remove them. So that's my understanding where we are today. Now, where it goes from there, I don't know. But I think that's what's happening today.
Well, there was a period of time where the police were all wrong. Cop had a cup of coffee, it was bad. Cop walked the beat, it was bad.
Right.
And then they looked at cutting back the activities of officers in Baltimore, in Minnesota. And then I was amazed when people were surprised that capital crimes went up.
Right.
It's like you handcuff the police. What do you expect? The bad people are going to turn a new leaf on life?
Exactly. So, I mean, I think, also Milford, we saw firsthand that there was, a high school student that was apprehended and put in custody. And I don't think that was handled that well. I think it could have been handled better by ICE. And frankly, I don't think they have done a great job of their public relations on a lot of things. And I think they have to let us know regularly the bad people that they're taking into custody, keep us safer, because the media will obsess over any people that perhaps, shouldn't have been taken into custody. And I understand that, and we don't want that, but there will be, this is a big problem, and there will be mistakes made, and we have to minimize those.
We had rumors going around that ICE was coming in for sweeps around the churches.
Yeah.
And just anybody, pardon me for the expression, but any little brown people they found, they were gonna scoop up. So I had Robbie Tassino, our police chief,
Mhm.
on the show, and I asked him, I said, Robbie, was that true? He said, Al, I was part of it.
Yep.
They informed me, they showed me the warrants
Yep.
that they had for the bad people.
Right.
And frankly, I witnessed that they had no interest in just generic people.
Yeah, I mean, it's all scare tactics. People want to make you terrified. They manipulate you. It's so unfair. I mean, people, I understand we're not trying to scare people, but there is a point in removing, and I think, frankly, being a sheriff, I think a lot of people have been victimized too by some of these people who come in the country illegally. They commit crimes, and they know that this community, because they're afraid, are not as likely to report them to the local police. So I think there's a lot of unreported crime that takes place. And if you start going deeper into this community, and I have, and I'm not saying people want to be public about it, but I think there's some appreciation, a lot more than is known, that they're removing some of these people from the community because they want to be safe. They want their kids to be
And
safe.
most of the immigrant criminals prey on the immigrant
That's what I'm
community.
saying. That's where the crime is taking place. And I feel for that community that's not right. And I think, quietly a lot of people support the removal of that.
And
as
when I
would
found
expect
out that
anybody would.
we had somebody who had been accused of murder in Brazil, moved to Milford, arms
that's right.
smuggler, people trafficker, I guess is the right term, drug kingpin, why would I feel bad that he got arrested?
You shouldn't.
And I feel bad for the boy who ice blew it. Yep, they did.
Yep.
And if we think that law enforcement are perfect, well, then you got to go to RoboCops.
Right.
Because as long as there's human beings carrying the badge, they're going to make mistakes.
Yep. No, and I mean, that's why, you need to minimize mistakes. If you have a mistake, you got to rectify it quickly. And they haven't been perfect in that, no question about
No.
it. So, something that hopefully will, be better as we go forward.
How big is the jail, the Worcester County Jail?
We have, well, I mean, from a inmate population, we capped it at about 1,200. Most of my time as sheriff, we were at or above 1,000. But since COVID and the reduction in arrests and the bail reform and such, we probably average now around 700. We are built for about 700, so it's probably where we should be. So that's about the size of us. Let's just say it's roughly 50-50 pre-trial and sentence. We have both people at our facility. So if you don't know that, like,
So,
you get arrested, you get a bail, you can't make bail, you stay at the Worcester County Sheriff's Department as the jail. And we have a lot of people in it, and some bad people. They don't go to state or federal. Well, federal crime, they'll go federal. But if it's state murder or whatever, they come to our place until they are sentenced. If it's more than 2.5 years, they'll go to state prison. That's where the Department of
so
Correction.
you don't just have jaywalkers.
No, we have
you-
nobody like that.
No, but I'm saying it's not just the light, easy crime,
No,
that
well,
was-
most of those people never end up incarcerated in Massachusetts.
but you've got murderers and rapists. And,
Sure. But we have the sentence population of those who are 2.5 years or less. So they can be felonies, but they're less. But, you could have drunk drivers. You could have people that traffic drugs. You could have people assaulting batteries. Multiple counts usually to get sentenced. But we have both of those people in our facility. So I don't want anybody to think, well, county jail is just a bunch of low-level offenders, because it's not. It's a very serious, dangerous
Yeah, a lot of people
environment.
think it's Mayberry jail,
No.
where you get the people who
Yeah.
didn't
No.
pay a bill or something.
I haven't seen any of those people.
Now, out of the 700, how many are long-term?
Well, the pretrial people can be long-term. If you're awaiting trial for murder, I've seen people there 3, 4, 5 years because of all the appeals and all that. So you can have that. I'd say the average stay is probably 90 days. A lot of people either get pretrial, they can't make bail, they ultimately end up going to trial and maybe get sentenced to state prison, or they get released, or the majority probably get sentenced to probably 6 to 9 months, and they'll get good time if they attend classes and do things that help facilitate their release. So that's kind of the average stay of people
But doesn't
there.
that make it harder for you to have an impact on somebody if they're only there 90 days or?
Sure. Sure, but we try our hardest to have different programs available for people based on their length of stay. First, try to get a handle on their educational level, substance issues that may be dealing with, mental health. We've quadrupled the budget of mental health in the last 6 years. We've realized that mental health is basically a co-occurring disorder with substance, abuse. So what do? We try to identify people's needs for mental health, and if we have it, we try to offer individual counseling. We have 14 counselors. We hired an outside company called Advocates to implement our mental health programming, and it's expensive, but it's important and it works. So we identify mental health, we identify substance issues, we identify your educational levels, and our goal from day one is we say reentry starts day one. We want to make sure anytime you have in our facility, you can use positively. Do everybody take advantage of it? Of course not. But you'd be surprised how many people do, and especially those who do, who benefit from it. And when they get released, I often meet them everywhere I go. And they'll tell me, Sheriff, you have no idea how much the time I spent at your facility actually helped turn my life around. That's what we live for. I mean, I don't live to incarcerate people. That's my job. What I live for are the programming that we have. For example, as something people not realize, we've set up partnerships since I've been sheriff. We have a partnership with Clark University. We have an entrepreneurship program. We started a partnership with Worcester State University for financial literacy. We started a music class where people could learn to write and express themselves in music through a program at Anna Maria College. We have a culinary program, 4 degrees that you can receive after a few months of culinary programming through the QCC. All these people get out. A lot of them have jobs waiting for them, have a much better opportunity to make it in life. So we do a lot of things in there to make it a positive environment. I mean, that's what I was sent there to do. I can only keep our community safer if I'm getting people released from jail who are less likely to repeat offend. That's the essence of how I see my job. I keep bad people who've committed crimes off the street, but unless they go to state prison, they're coming back. So my goal and the work we do every day is to make sure they're coming back. They're less likely to reoffend than when they got there. It's super hard work, and we fail plenty. It's just a fact. I'd say a recidivist rate, if you wanted to ask, somewhere around 50%. I think
I
we've
was gonna
drilled
say,
it
but
down.
it's like a baseball batting average. You could say you've,
Well, hopefully a little better than
a
that.
great hitter fails
That's exactly right.
2/3 of the time,
That's right.
or you can look and say a great hitter succeeds 1/3 of the time.
Exactly. And we know we do better than, each year we improve our performance. But I also know this. If you avail yourself to certain programs, you are going to be less likely to offend. But some people don't want them. If you avail yourself to our intensive substance treatment program, you're less likely to come back. If you avail yourself to certain programming or job opportunity programming, you'll feel less likely to come back. So we know that. The key is to get people into the right program for themselves and take advantage of it to turn their lives around. So it's super hard work, but we judge ourselves by our successes, not by our failures. And I tell everybody who comes to work for us, when I ask them why, most people, my favorite answer is, I want to help. I want to help people. I say, thank you, because that's really what we do. My favorite thing, Al, is when I invite people to come to the jail, and groups come, chambers of commerce come. I don't do individual tours, but, groups come. My favorite ones, medical schools, different organizations will come through. And my favorite thing is I meet them before and I meet them after. And I tell them before, I'm very interested to see what you think. It's going to be a day you'll remember. When they go in the jail and the cell doors close behind them, for a lot of people, that's a first experience, and you don't forget it. But I think what they're expecting to find is a bleak, dark, bad environment. And I find when they come out, I talk to them, overwhelmingly they're blown away by the environment inside. The officers are respectful. They work with these people. They offer programming, treatment. The inmates feel respected because I deal with them as humans until they've proven us otherwise. I treat them like citizens, like honorable citizens, because I want them to succeed. And the only way to get them to buy in is to show them we're willing to work with you. But some don't, and that's their choice. But I'm always astonished when people come, have never been to a facility, and leave, and they say, that was nothing like I ever expected.
Because it's not exciting news.
No.
I
No,
mean,
as a matter of fact, my favorite people are ones that want to criticize everything we do. You guys offer nothing. We shouldn't have incarcerated people. That's a horrible thing. And then they leave and like, I didn't know you did any of that stuff. And I say, well, exactly, because you don't want to know. It's not the narrative you want,
Well, they're right. We should not have any bad things happen. everybody should be a model citizen and nobody should steal.
Right.
And then you say, but we're humans.
Yeah, I mean, the next society that performs in such a fashion will be the first one in history.
Now, you said something that hit me, that you could have people in the jail for 3-4 years waiting trial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How long, if they get sentenced to, what, 3 years or more, they go to state?
Yeah. They'll go to state prison.
But if it's in process, you could hold them for years.
Yeah, we call it pretrial, and it's our jail. So when you get sentenced, you're sentenced to the house of correction. That's why we call it house of correction, because it means that you hopefully it will be what we want it to be, as my pastor said and is on my wall. May this truly be a house of correction, where people are given opportunities to pay their debts to society, but to find themselves and to have growth and rebirth. That's what we seek for in this position. So when people get sentenced, they become house of the correction, and when they serve their sentence, which I said probably averages 6 to 9 months, and then you have a whole pretrial group.
Now, for years, you had outreach programs where you grew vegetables and
Right.
did work. We took advantage of some of the inmate
Sure.
labor.
Oh, yeah.
Is that still going on?
Yes, the organic farm program is extraordinary, and it's carried on. It's bigger and better than ever. We did another, I think it was 30,000, 40,000 pounds of organic produce this year. Tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, zucchini, pumpkins, corn.
30,000 pounds?
Yeah, we do about 500 pounds a day in the peak growing season that we distribute. And these are inmates working with some supervised staff, growing 13 to 15 acres of incredible produce.
I remember when you first came on and talked about the program, you were going to have 3 tomatoes, 2 potatoes.
Well, I don't know if it was that little, but we started off with a much smaller farming operation, but our staff love it. The inmates enjoy the opportunity to get outside, to put themselves to work. They get a sense of dignity and self-respect from doing that, and feeding their fellow inmates, which they do, saves the taxpayers a lot of money. But also we distribute the food on a daily basis to senior centers, to veteran shelters, to homeless centers. People that need the food, we distribute, and it's beautiful. And I'm really proud of the program. Now, the other side of the programming we had for years was the inmate service program. And that one we don't have anymore because we don't have any of the lower level offenders still incarcerated. We had to shut the building down because the people that I can't put a murderer, or not even a murderer, but violent offenders into the community.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't ask for, can we have help? Yeah, here's 6 murderers, 4 rapists.
Or
wandering
even
over.
those are pretrial, which I won't put, even sentence, serious violent gang members or violent offenders. I can't do it. So now we have such a small group that can fit that profile that we really use them along on the grounds of the jail now for the farming program, for grounds work, upkeep, things like that. So the program is, we don't have the inmate work program, which I love. For 10 years, we saved $1 million a year in this community. I loved it. The inmates got a lot out of it. They did. I had an inmate tell me, I'll just tell you one story if I haven't told you before, but to me it summed up the program and I loved it and I'll never forget it. He was working at a senior center doing some painting, and I said, I went there just to visit and see how the community appreciated it, saving them thousands of dollars. And I always asked the inmates, how you doing? And this guy said to me, can I talk to you? I said, sure. I said, what's up? He's like, Sheriff, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be in this program. And I said, why do you say that? He goes, well, and this is what he told me, almost verbatim. He said, Sheriff, I grew up in public housing, 3rd generation, and I never had a job in my life until I came here. And he gave me a chance to get up every morning and go to work. And you know what, Sheriff? He goes, and this is what I absolutely will never forget. He said, I have a sense of dignity and a sense of purpose that I've never had in my life. And Sheriff, when I get out of here, I want to retain that sense of dignity. And I want to make my family proud of me. And I want to get a job. I don't want to come back here. And I thought, my God, I said, what powerful language. Well, it was powerful because he understood. And I realized then, I said, that's when I committed myself to only working with people who are going to run for public office, who care about our community, who believe in the dignity.
Yeah, but that person right there, in my opinion, you won. You did what you ultimately want.
But he symbolizes a lot bigger than one. And that is, there's no dignity in dependency on government programs. There's no dignity in dependency on drugs. People want independence so they can flourish. And too many people get sucked into that vortex of dependency. And when here's a guy who's never had independence in his life, and he said, you showed me through going to jail, showed me how to live my life where I feel good about myself and a sense of worth. That it really did a lot for me. So it breaks my heart that we don't have that program because people benefited from it, and it was a real sense of dignity and purpose. So we don't have that now, but we do still have the farm program, and I think the people in that program. But as I said, a lot of those lower level offenders, that's probably why we're no longer at 1,000 every day. We're more at like the 700, 800 range. Those 200 people, I guess the legislature and the judges and courts have decided they don't belong in prison, and some maybe they don't, but some do, and that's who's committing some crimes out there. But there's nothing. I don't make those decisions.
Right. What do you think the biggest challenges you're going to face in the next year?
The next year? Well, for me, it always boils down to funding. I don't know where this economy's going. I don't know where we're always underfunded. We oftentimes have to put in what they call a deficit request because the legislature knows they don't give us some money, and they always add additional burdens on us. For example, they created a program for inmate phone calls, free inmate phone calls. Now we are mandated to provide free phone calls for everyone in our care, custody, and control, and there's 700, and they're on the phone averaging sometimes hours a day. And that's costing us millions and millions of dollars. They don't give us money for that. We are mandated to provide what they call medically assisted treatment. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it means if you come into our facility, everyone is different, but the theory is that we are mandated to put them on Suboxone or methadone if they so choose, basically. That is costing us hundreds of thousands and then millions of dollars. None of this was given funding
It's all
for.
unfunded mandates?
Right. So we're really struggling to do the mandates without the funding. So every year we seem to run out, and then we have to, go to the legislature and ask for more. And some of it too is, Governor Healy gives pretty substantial raises to state employees, and then they come to us and get the same. And we have to make sure that that's built in to our budget. So I'd say budgeting on you've said year to year is the biggest problem. I think otherwise our operation's pretty steady. We're always looking for new programs, new opportunities, new ways to improve our operation, new ways to. We had the best program in the state of Massachusetts last year, according to the Mass Sheriff's Association. It's our reentry program, but it's our substance treatment reentry program. You can go into that building. It's a standalone building, Al. It used to be a place we had 100 inmates in bunk beds, but we shut the building down. And a lot of them were on psychotropic drugs, sex offenders. It was crazy to have a place with no bunk beds, 100 bunk beds. Now we emptied that building out. It was empty, and we decided, what could we do with it? Super positive. We ultimately decided to create a diversion program for inmates to go and receive intensive 24-hour drug treatment. You have to apply to get into the program. You have to be serious about you have to, first of all, have an issue with substance. You have to pledge yourself to sobriety. And you then will have to show that you're interested in turning your life around and you're a team player. And if you do, you go up to this facility. We have 24 beds. They're not cells. They're like cubicles. You get supervised all day, but you have a lot of counselors there for you most of the day, especially from the first of the morning till the evening. Classes, programs, working on yourself, and the people who graduate from that program have some of the lowest recidivist rates we've got, and it was recognized as the best program.
Now, somebody goes into the jail with a drug problem.
Yeah.
Can they get access to drugs while they're in the jail?
Well, that's what I just said. I mean, so the first question would be, can they legally get access? Well, of course, no. I mean, well, not in the sense that, everyone's trying to sneak things into a facility. Any sheriff that will tell you, or warden or whomever says, we don't have a drug problem, you're probably missing it, because it's always trying to happen. People are trying to sneak things in. That's obviously completely illegal, and we do everything in our power to stop it, and we do pretty darn good. The other is, if you are on methadone or Suboxone, or you convince a doctor that you are needing it, they will dispense it to you inside our facility. So those are prescription medications, and they are prescribed for inmates at the jail. We could talk, we don't have enough time. We could have done the whole show on that. I have very strong opinions about it. Let me just summarize it like this. I sat through the opioid epidemic when I was a practicing attorney. I saw what OxyContin did to people, families, individuals. We lost 70,000 people a year, I think it was at one point, to OxyContin, maybe still. That's more than we lost in the Vietnam War. So I saw the greed and what I thought was the politicians in Washington greenlighting this. The Sackler family in Connecticut made billions of dollars. People died, and they were overprescribed these meds. I'm feeling there's something going on with methadone and Suboxone. Now, of course, it has a purpose for people who can live a more stable life and prevent overdoses. I'm not foolish. I understand it. But where I see it happening now, the pendulum swinging so far, money is involved, billions of dollars. Some people want everybody in the world who has ever taken a drug to be on methadone or Suboxone. They're still on heavy duty drugs. Methadone and Suboxone are serious drugs. Talk to people who are on them. They'll tell you they're basically either stoned or they're a little out of it. And their doses go up when they're incarcerated instead of down because they want to be high. Doctors prescribe this. I don't have an opinion about people who are living in the outside world and thriving and doing well and holding a job and they're on methadone or Suboxone. It's not my position. But when you come back to a jail, something's not working. And we're mandated not only to keep them on, but we're also mandated when they say it's not working, putting them on higher doses. I see people now that just they want to be on Suboxone or methadone particularly, and they don't want to go to programming anymore. And then they get out, they're more addicted to methadone than when they got there, if they were even on it. I don't see how this is great public policy. I think it has gone too far. I don't think enough people are speaking out about it. And again, it's costing us a fortune to do this. And most people have no idea that we're mandated to do that.
Well, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for the promises made and kept.
You're welcome.
And we appreciate everything that the Sheriff's Department does for our towns.
Well, it's been an honor. I mean this. In my whole life, I've never enjoyed a job more. I felt me and our team have been able to work with our partners in this community and across everywhere, law enforcement, social services, mental health, everything, to help make our community a better place, have people give them a second chance at life, which you all believe in. And it's been a real privilege to do this job. I love it. I still get up every day. I'm invigorated by it. I run into people every day, and it just makes me feel so proud.
And I hope that in 2028, that enthusiasm carries you to another term.
Well, we'll see, Al. I got a few years to figure that out, but I love the job. That's all I can tell you. And I'll close with this. My daughter, when I talked about running for a third term, which I'd never done, I never worked anywhere more than 10 years of my life. And she said, "What do you think, Dad?" I said, "I don't know. What do you think?" And she lives in Los Angeles, and she goes, "Well, Dad, I don't think you could have a better job for what you in public service." And I said, "Well, why do you say that?" And she said, "Because it's a big enough job that you can change people's lives, but it's a small enough job you can know the lives of the people you change." And that's how I look at this. This is an unbelievable job to actually make a difference in your community, but to know the people you're making a difference with. And what can you ask
That's
for
why
more
I
than
say
that?
the environment starts at the head.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's been an unbelievable joy to be sheriff. I can't think of as my dad said when I got elected, he goes, "If they put sheriff on your gravestone, what more could you ask for?"
Well, thank you. And thank you to our 6 loyal viewers. As always, may tomorrow be a safer and better day than today, and may God bless. Good night, all.